Hello, Namaste. In this tutorial video, I'm going to explain the best file formats and options to use in the Sirius, Kepler, and Pegasus astrology software programs for emailing. Email is something that lots of people do, and there's several issues that come up. So we get these questions a lot, and I hope this video will help you decide how you want to email reports to clients. Okay, number one, there are three ways to email a report in Kepler and in Sirius. In Pegasus, which is the smallest level of these three astrology software programs, in Pegasus there's only one way. But let me go over the three ways. I've got the number one, you can email directly from within the program, which is very convenient, but unfortunately does not work on all computers. Let me show you that first, emailing directly from within the program. Okay, so I'm in the Sirius 1.3 software. I'm looking at a chart wheel of a client. I happen to have well, he's not my client, but, a famous person, Brad Pitt, the actor. But suppose he was a client and we wanted to email him, his chart wheel. And later I'll talk about emailing, interpretive reports and things like that. Okay, so what do? Well, there's an icon for it right there. Email the wheel or other graphic printout that is displayed. So this is a graphic, obviously. It's not a text, a bunch of words. It's a graphic, and we're going to send this graphic image to the client. So we click on email, and we get in Sirius you get a pop-up of whether you want to send it or change the settings. Actually, we can get to the settings from this send anyway. So I'm going to click on send, and a window opens up, very nice. And you pick, enter the email address of the person you're going to send it to. But over here in the upper right-hand corner is the settings. It says from me at myemail.com. That's probably not your email address. So you want to change that, and you can change that permanently in the settings. So let's go to the settings to see what the options are. So we click on change settings, and this is what I was trying to say. You're going to enter what your email address is here, a subject you want to use, and the basic text of the email. And most people are going to select this directly from within Sirius. There's also an option to email through a word processing or graphics program. That's the second option I'm going to talk about. But for now, let me just stick to the first one, where you email directly from within Sirius. And then there are some settings. The normal setting, there's a note here, normal works on most computers. You can use normal. Normal means it's going to use the email services installed on your computer and in the Windows operating system. You have to have a default email program that will handle it and send it. So if your email is set up properly in Windows, this will work. Very often it's not set up, so it won't work. And then there are the options for modem, which almost nobody has now, or the high speed, and you can select high speed. And if you do that, this note pops up telling you that you enter your outgoing mail server. How do you know what your outgoing mail server is? Well, you can go to Google or any other search engine, and if your email is with Gmail, you could say Gmail outgoing mail server, and you'll find a link usually that tells you what it is. It's often something like smtp dot, the website of the mail service, or it could be mail dot gmail.com and so on. And then you may have some different choices here to select. Okay, so then you do that, and you should be able to send the email. Okay, I'm going to save this. And by the way, let me go back there. If I click on change settings, I know what I wanted to tell you, is that if you click normal, there are some various options here. This is pretty technical, and normally the typical setting will work just fine, but there are some optional settings. Okay, so then you say who you're going to send it to. I'm just going to type in me at myemail.com, which is sort of nonsense email address, and I could say thank you, dear you would type in here what you want. Dear Joe, thank you for your order, etc. You can type whatever you want, put in your name, etc. You click on send, and what will sometimes happen is it will not send it because it's not set up properly to work. And in a second or two, we're going to get a message that it doesn't work. So what do you do if it doesn't work? We can probably help you get it to work, but sometimes it will not work because your email service will not support it. This gets very technical. There are issues of your computer trying to protect itself from viruses and so on, and viruses often get introduced when other programs are coming in and trying to utilize the resources of the computer to send email and so on. Now, so is that the worst thing in the world if you cannot use this feature to send email directly from within Sirius? The answer is no, and very often it's not the best way to send email. Customers love it. They love this idea that they can click on email, click on send, just click send, and it's done. That's the advantage to this method. You don't have to, no muss, no fuss. It's right there, you send it. There's actually another way to send email which has a lot of advantages over doing it this way, and it seems more complicated, but it isn't. So going back to my PowerPoint presentation, this is one of the three ways. Email directly from within the program. It's convenient, but it does not work on all computers. The second way is to email through another program. I put in for some geeks who like this. Well, you don't have to be a geek. People like that for different reasons. But this is very rare. Very few people use that. And that's that option I just showed you, where we click on the email icon, click on send mail, click on change settings, and that's this, through a word processing or graphics program. And then what happens is the graphic, in this case, it's a graphic image, would be sent to whatever program we send it to. mspaint.exe is the Paint program. It would come up there, and then you have to email it from Paint. So you're just using another program to send it. That's not usually a big help, because if the normal setting that I showed you does not work, I clicked on normal, I get this message. If this normal setting does not work, you're probably not going to be you probably will not be able to email from other programs either, because they're basically using what we call the normal here. Okay, so I'm going to cancel out of this, and I'll cancel out of this. So you have the idea of how to email directly from within the program. There's this other option very few people use, and then there's the third method that I wrote here, sounds intimidating at first, but is easy and has these advantages. You get to compose your email with all of the features of your email program. The email will be put in your sent folder. Those are two big advantages. And it sounds more complicated at first, but it's really not. And so I'm going to show you how you use your email program. So let me show you that now. What you would do is you're going to save the file. Just save it, and then in your email program you attach the file. And it sounds like a lot of steps because you have to save it and then attach it. It's really not a lot of work, and you'll see the big advantages of it in a second. So let's save this to file. So we click on the Save to File, and we have a lot of options right here. We can save as PDF, which is a good choice. And we could save to file. Let's view change settings first. These are quick selections for convenient in case you use in a lot of use different settings for different situations. Most people don't. Here's to view in a graphics program, etc. But typically, most people are going to want to either save as PDF or just save to file. And let's first view the settings. In the upper left is how you're going to save your interpretations and listings. If you're not saving in PDF, HTML is a good choice. You can save a standard text file that loses your formatting, generally not a good idea. Rich text format works for some people, it's a little harder for people to use, so HTML is a good choice if you're not sending PDF. And then for graphics, so you have one format for text, like interpretations, and another format for graphics, and that's down here. And what I recommend for this is PNG. A lot of people select JPEG, right? Because they hear about JPEG, JPEG sounds great. They're used to it. You have this idea that it's great. But JPEG is really designed for pictures, like mountains and lakes and your house and pictures of people. It's not so good when you have lines like this. You have lines and circles because it tends to make them smudgy. And there's a way in JPEG to get rid of the smudginess, but then the JPEG file gets very big. And this is not an issue of resolution. It's an issue of how JPEG saves the image. Now, PNG years ago was not supported by a lot of browsers and email programs, so the person could not see it. Now, PNG is supported by almost all programs, so it's a better choice because it doesn't create that fuzzy look. It'll be nice, clear, and sharp, just like you're seeing on your computer screen. So PNG is a good choice. And then over here is your size. Now, this gets a little complicated. If you make it too small, if I go down to, in the range of 200 by 300, it's a low resolution, it's not going to look too good. If you make it very high, you may say, let me just send it huge. Well, number one, it's going to take longer for the person to get it. That's not such a big deal. The bigger deal is, it's so big they won't see it on their screen. It's like overkill, and it can be more difficult to see, and that's also an advantage to PDF. PDF tends to be easier to see on the screen. So what happens is when you send this image, it's going to get, you might say, interpreted by whatever email program they use, on whatever computer they're using, and there's not just one way it's done. The bottom line is this. In most cases, a sort of modest resolution, somewhere in this range, like 600 by 900, or 500 by 700 to 800. In that range, tends to be good. If they're looking at it bigger, it doesn't look terrible. If they're looking at it on a small thing, it fits. So somewhere in that range is good if you're sending it for them to just look at on their screen. If you're sending it to a publisher, then you're going to send it in a very high resolution. Just keep hitting this up arrow till it won't get any bigger. And this resolution only applies to the graphic format. If you're doing PNG, that's handled separately. So this is for your graphic format, everything in this box, your format and your resolution. This is for your interpretation information, interpretive files. And this is important. This is whether you want to be prompted for a file name. And generally it's a good idea. So I would select this, prompt for file name when saving file. There's an option here for the file name to be assigned for you. You can just click here, it will be assigned for you. But then you may be unclear as to, you may not like the file name. It's nice to have it under your control. It's up to you. We have this choice. And then you also have a choice of whether the name is put in there for you, which can be handy because you don't have to remember what the person's name is. But this is fine. Prompt for file name, do not include the name, then you just make up the name of the file. Now, here's a really important deal. What folder you save the file in. This is really important. It's important because there's a special folder called MYPRNOUT, My Printout, within the folder where Sirius is saved. If you save in the My Printout folder, as the note says here, save in folder My Printout to erase files regularly so they do not accumulate. So this is a nice feature if you just are concerned about the files accumulating, but on the other hand, they can just suddenly get erased when you don't want them to. So if the default is, if your folder says the Sirius folder or Kepler folder and then My Printout, you can change it just by clicking on Change Directory. And now when we ship Sirius, we save in a folder called Saved Reports, so it does not get erased, because we found that this could upset people that suddenly the files got erased. So we decided it's a better default to not save in the My Printout. But to change the directory, you just click on Change Directory, and you can go to Drive C, and just browse around your computer. I could go back to the Sirius 13 folder where this Sirius 1.3 is installed, and I have this saved reports folder that I made, and in the latest copies that we ship, it makes that already, or wherever you want to put it. And if you want me to make some tutorial videos on how to make folders, what if you want to add a folder, we don't have that feature in Sirius. It's just a normal function you do in Windows. We could show you that. Anyway, I'll cancel out of this, but I wanted to mention that if the folder is my printout, it will get erased after, I think it's 50 files are in there. They just get erased so that you don't accumulate all these unnecessary files. But probably you want to just save it in a different folder, and so you just erase it if you want to. It's up to you. If you're not following what I'm saying, I would say change it to a different folder than my printout, so that nothing happens automatically to you. Okay, so this is a good setting. I'm saving in the saved reports file. I'm going to save my interpretations as HTML. I'm going to save my graphics as PNG in a fairly small size. So there we go. I can click OK to save this wheel. I could also click Save Settings if I just wanted to change my settings, and exit. But let's go ahead and save this wheel with these settings. It's going to prompt me for the file name. I click OK, and there it is. It asks me for the name, and let's call it tutorial wheel sample Brad Pitt. So I just give it a name, click OK, and it tells me it's saved. File with that long file name I just gave it is saved in the Sirius 13 folder, means the Sirius 13 folder on drive C, and in the saved reports folder within the Sirius 13 folder is what those slashes mean. So that's it. Now I've saved it. Now I need to attach it in my email, and this is what sounds intimidating if you're not an experienced computer user, like, oh my god, I can't just click on email and send it. I've now got to attach it. Well, I'll show you how to attach it. It's not really that bad. I've got an email program up here, Gmail. So I have a Gmail account for one of my places I do email from. So I will send Brad Pitt, I don't actually have his email, but whoever my client might be, an email with this file. So I'll click on Compose. In your email program may be different from Gmail. So you click on whatever it is you click on to send an email. And I would say to the email address, I'll say somebody@somewhere.com, and subject would be your beautiful chart wheel from Sirius. If I can type, that would help. And so then you type your email, hello, how are you, da-da-da-da-da, and then you just click on attach. There's usually something like a paper clip or something to attach the file. And the first time you do this, your email program won't know where the file is. But almost every email program will default to the same folder. So I've used this folder before, so there it is. All I do is just click on it. Tutorial wheel sample Brad Pitt. If I wasn't in the right folder, then I would, use this, browse. Sometimes there's a browse button where you just click on this down arrow and you can go to drive C, and then you go to wherever it is. So you only have to do this once on your computer. And now I'm in this Sirius 13, and now I select Save Reports. You won't have to do this every time. You only have to do it once. And now I'm back to my folder I want to be in. I just click on the file. You'll see it. That's why you like to name it, so that you know you've got it. And that's it. Now I click on Send, and it would send it. If I had a real email address here, it would be sent off. Just click on Send, and there it goes. So this is a very nice way to do it because it will appear in your sent folder. You've got a record of it. You can do all the fancy things that you can do in your full-blown email program. And realistically speaking, for most people, I think this is a better way to send email than clicking on the send email in Sirius or in Kepler. just save it and attach it. Also, if you get on different computers, if you're traveling, as long as you can get into your email, and if you have one that's on a website like Yahoo or Gmail or Hotmail or any of these, you just get to that website, you get into your email, and you won't have any problem sending email. Okay, so I think you've got the idea. That's it. What I've done here, I'm not actually going to send this email, so I'll just close that. I don't really need to send that. Okay, so I think I've covered all of this. This may not be the most exciting video in the world because it's just about the technicalities of sending email, but it's important stuff to know. So let's go over everything that I've done here. Emailing reports, 3 ways to do it. Email directly from within the program. That's convenient, but it doesn't work on all computers. It also, or number 2, which very few people use, or number 3, use your email program. Sounds intimidating at first, but is easy, has the advantages that you compose your email with all of the features of your email program. We put in your sent folder. And if you have Pegasus, by the way, this is the only way that the other options are not available. Okay, so that's how you do it, and I've talked about file formats. PNG and PDF are best for most purposes. There are cases where other formats are preferred, like some publishers want TIFF format, and that's available in Sirius as well, and in Kepler. So PNG has the advantage that a graphic is likely to be visible in the email message. So when the person receives the email, they're likely to see that chart wheel right there. They don't have to open up another program, they see it. If you save it in PDF, they probably have to click on the file and then it opens up a PDF reader. Some people don't have a PDF reader installed properly. Most people do, but these are things that can come up. PDF has the advantage that most people know how to use it. The image will resize very nicely right on the screen. And there are some standard PDF readers like Adobe Reader that will be installed and show it very nicely. With a graphic, we don't know exactly what program they're going to have that will show the image, if it's going to resize it automatically for them, and how it's going to display it. So there are advantages and disadvantages between PNG and PDF. And for interpretive reports, if the report does not have graphics, use HTML or PDF. And again, PDF has the advantage that it sizes nicely. People are used to using it. Looks very good. But the HTML is also very nice. Now, if you send an interpretive report with graphics, you must use PDF, because otherwise the graphics won't be visible. The problem with the graphics is they won't be installed on their computer. In the PDF, they get embedded right in the file. So let me show you an example of that. I'm back in Sirius, and let's pull up an interpretation. I'll select interpretation natal. I'll select Live Mini and Cosmo. And I've got Cosmo in all these languages, Portuguese, Spanish, French, German, blah, blah. I'm going to select English, and I'm going to do Cosmo with pictures. Okay, so I've selected Cosmo with pictures, and I click OK. And there it is, Cosmo natal for Brad Pitt. He has Sagittarius rising, high-spirited, enthusiastic, and exuberant. You love adventure, change, exploring new territory. Well, that fits a lot of his roles in his movies anyway. He's a double Sag. Sun is in Sagittarius as well. Anyway, you have these little images next to the interpretation. So this is an interpretation with the graphics. Okay, so how do I email this to a client? What did I just say? Do you remember? Send it as a PDF. Now, this interpretation is in its own little window, has its own little icons up here for sending. So I will click on the send. No. Let's save it. We'll save it as a PDF and attach it. So we'll save it as a PDF, and we have 2 choices. We can save where actually there's 3 choices, where Sirius will select a format for you, or you can use the default, or you can view change settings first. Normally just select auto select, but I'll show you what happens if you select view change. It asks for a name, so I'll call this tutorial sample. It's not the wheel sample, tutorial interp sample with graphics. That's fine. Click OK. And now it's asking me which method I want to use. In Kepler and Sirius, you have a choice of this Gnostis. This is a programming toolkit that we use to create the PDF files, or the WPDF. And there's advantages to each one, and that's where the auto select will select which one is best depending on the report that you've selected. And then there's some other choices about letter or etc. So that's what I want to show you, that if you can choose which one you want to use. The auto select is better. You don't have, for most cases, you don't have to think about it. So I'll just click on Save as PDF. Auto select it for me. And interp sample with graph, good. Click OK. And I can tell it's which one of these it's chosen. It's asking for a confirmation. And then it generates the PDF file. Okay, so that's it. Click on OK, and it's done. It's created that PDF file. Has been successfully saved. All right, and with this particular choice, it actually brings it up in the PDF reader, and there it is. I could magnify this in the PDF reader, make it a little more readable, and you can scroll through it, and there is the interpretation with the graphics, beautifully placed right in the report. So that's the advantage. I can make this a little smaller, and you could see more of the page. So there it is. Very nice. And this is what the user will see when you email it. Okay, so that's it. I think I've covered just about everything. I know there's one more little thing I want to mention, which is that there are actually 3 ways to create a PDF file. Another way is there are what are called PDF drivers, where you have a printer and the printer doesn't actually print. You have a printer driver, you select the printer, but instead of printing it, it creates a PDF file. And there are even free PDF drivers, printer drivers. So you can Google it. I decided not to mention any of the names of them because there's so many, and I don't know if one is better than another. But there's lots to choose from. You install these PDF drivers, and then you just tell it to print, and you select the PDF driver to print to. So that's another way to do it. I wonder if I have a PDF driver here. So I would click, I think I have one on this computer. So I click on the printer icon. I'll select View Change Settings first. And up comes this window. Let me drag it over here. And if I have a driver, it'll just, there it is, Win to PDF. That is one of the free ones. So you click on that, and then you click on Print. I haven't done this in a long time, but it should work fine. I'll click on Print, and I don't actually hardly ever use this program. It's asking me to agree to something, and then it asks, I guess it's asking for a file name and what folder I want to put it in. So I will call this tutorial sample. That's good enough. Click on Save, and I've told Sirius to print it, but using this PDF driver, instead of printing it, it sends it to a PDF file. It's not actually printing it. It sends it to a PDF file, and it did it. So if I go into my Adobe Reader, I should be able to read it in and view it. But I think you've got the idea. I don't need to go through all that. You've got the idea. So they're actually, going back to my presentation here, there are actually 3 ways to create the PDF file. We have that thing we call Gnostis, which is a company that developed the program code that we use in our program, and the WPDF. You can use the auto select, so that's chosen for you, The third way is you could use one of these PDF drivers. Why do you need all these ways to create PDF files? Because some programs do a better job at rendering, we call it, at making the PDF file than other programs. But the ones that are included in Sirius do a very excellent job. I've mentioned this business about the My Printout folder where files are periodically saved, and whether you want to be prompted for the name of the file, which most people do. And most people would select a different folder than the My Printout so that they're never erased. And that's it. So those are some of the issues, some of the formatting issues, some of the choices you have. These are technical issues. Most people in astrology don't want to get involved in all the technicalities of dealing with a computer. But when you send email, you have to. I mean, you have to be aware of what's going to happen because now you're interacting with somebody else in this information age, and it helps to know a little bit about what you're doing. So those are some of the things that I can think of. A lot of things with computers are really not like a science, a hard science, because there are different products that come out and different versions of things that happen and different styles and different ways people do things in different countries. So it's constantly evolving and changing. That's my take on it for the current situation. Some of you may want to post some comments and additional ideas of things you've noticed in sending emails to people. What kind of things work for you? The bottom line is that in Kepler and Sirius, we've given a rich selection of options. We've built in a email program within it. When you select the high speed, right within the software, we have our own email facility that will attempt to do it. We have the normal setting, which is how most programs send email. But best of all for most people is just to save it. You have all these options for formats and so on, and then attach it in your email. You will get used to it. If you're used to just clicking, if you have the software and you're used to just clicking on send, give it a try. Give it a try to use your email program and just attach it. It's really easy. You get used to it very quickly, and it has all those advantages. And it's one of those advantages, saving in your sent folder, really helps because if the client asks you, when did you send it, what happened, you can tell them exactly the date and time you sent it, you can resend it. It's very nice to be in a full-blown email program to do all your email. Okay, thank you for listening. God bless. Take care. Namaste.